Tonight on NewsWatch, pushing for peace in the Middle East. Why the president says he has not given up on talks between Israelis and Palestinians. Plus, the Supreme Court is set to hear cases on gay marriage this month, what their decisions could mean for the future of American culture. And the popular game show, The American Bible Challenge, is back. CBN News talks with host and comedian Jeff Foxworthy. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. Good evening, I'm Mark Martin. Palestinian terrorists launched rocket attacks into southern Israel today before President Obama's meeting with Palestinian leaders. The president talked about a peace deal, and he spent much of the day with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Chris Mitchell has the story from Jerusalem.
Day 2 of President Obama's visit. He started at the Israel Museum, looking at the ancient Dead Sea Scrolls. So far as Israel's concerned, things seem to be going well. One commentator remarked, if this is the way we greet Obama, what's left for the Messiah? Any previous animosity between Obama and Netanyahu appeared to be gone.
I think the Israeli people are very happy that President Obama is getting off to a new second start with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and I think that that's very important. And I think it's a more realistic appraisal of the Middle East.
Behind the photo ops, the goodwill, and the massive security are the major issues facing these two nations. The civil war in Syria, no negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians, and the most serious issue of all, the threat of a nuclear Iran.
All options are on the table. We will do what is necessary to prevent Iran from getting the world's worst weapons.
The two also discussed Israeli-Palestinian negotiations.
Israel remains fully committed to peace and to the solution of two states for two peoples. We extend our hands in peace and in friendship to the Palestinian people.
In a speech that was the centerpiece of his trip, Obama addressed a packed auditorium with hundreds of college students on Thursday.
But make no mistake, those who adhere to the ideology of rejecting Israel's right to exist, they might as well reject the earth beneath them or the sky above, because Israel's not going anywhere.
Obama hit all the right notes in his hour-long address, which one analyst said he could never have given to Israeli lawmakers. He said peace between Israel and the Palestinians is necessary and possible, and there's no secret where that will lead.
Two states for two peoples.
But not everyone thinks even Obama believes that's possible.
Well, I think that it's quite clear, even to President Obama, that the two-state solution is impossible to achieve. By the way, it's not a solution. If it were achieved, then it will be the prelude for a new belligerence.
Obama said it's the young people and not their leaders who must decide the future.
And let me say this as a politician. I can promise you this. Political leaders will never take risks if the people do not push them to take some risks. You must create the change that you want to see.
But Palestinians see the growing U.S.-Israel ties as a bad sign for them, and they're not happy about the president's visit. Early Thursday, Palestinians launched rockets at Israel from the Gaza Strip, just ahead of the president's trip to Ramallah to meet with Palestinian leaders. Author Michael Widlansky says Obama's visit sends a message to regimes in the area.
He realizes now that in the sea of sand of the Middle East, Israel is the only anchor Western democracies have. He's made a lot of mistakes. Syria, Egypt, Jordan is destabilizing. Turkey's a morass. He realizes that there's only one place he can rely on for good news and for forward progress. That's Israel. That's a pragmatic decision by an ideological man, and I think that's a good move.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Dr. Emmanuel Ottolenghi is a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and he joins us now with more. Has the president addressed the Iranian threat to Israel sufficiently during this visit, would you say?
I think that the public statements are all in the right direction. The problem that you have today, I don't think is one of intentions on the part of the United States when it comes to blunting Iran's ambitions to have nuclear weapons. The real problem that both allies face is being able to detect the moment when Iran steps forward and crosses the finish line before it's too late. And the history of nuclear proliferation teaches us that even in the best of circumstances, when Western nations were familiar with their opponents, were aware of developments in nuclear programs, had good intelligence, they were always surprised, whether it was the Soviet Union in the 1940s and 50s with its advance on the nuclear weapons program, whether it was China, Pakistan, India, more recently, of course, North Korea, and of course Libya, which never had nuclear weapons but traded its very advanced program in exchange for a short-lived immunity for the regime. In all of these circumstances, we were surprised by how much we didn't know when things developed. So the challenge for both the United States and Israel, and I suspect that this has been a central topic of discussion, is when will it be too late to act, given that we cannot possibly assume we know everything there is to know about Iran's clandestine military nuclear program.
Dr. Ottolenghi, how is the Obama visit being received by the Palestinians?
Look, all you have to do is look at the reactions on both sides to see the sea of difference between Israelis and Palestinians when it comes to relations to the United States. The Palestinians, of course, have been hoping and expecting that the United States will push Israel into the kind of agreement the Palestinians want, and that hasn't happened. But more to the point, President Obama's visit was welcomed by a volley of rockets in south of Israel. Now, of course, the Palestinian Authority may not be directly responsible for it, and the government of Hamas in Gaza may claim that they had nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is that one side is still very much interested in reaching peace and has been investing and working for many years in building a culture of coexistence. That's mm-hmm. Israel. And the Palestinian street is by and large still refusing to acknowledge Israel's existence and dreaming of the day when Israel would disappear. And that is the heart and the core of the problem and the conflict and the difficulty in solving it. America has come to the region with great intentions, a renewed and fresh push to advance peace talks between the two sides. Mm-hmm. But unless and until the Palestinians come to terms with Israel's right to exist, you are not going to see any progress.
All right, Dr. Emmanuel Ottolenghi, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Back in Washington, a busy day on Capitol Hill. Congress passed a measure that keeps the government up and running through the rest of the fiscal year, ending the threat of a potential government shutdown. Also, House Republicans passed a plan that will balance the budget in 10 years. The plan, authored by Wisconsin Congressman Paul Ryan, passed largely along a party line vote. It balances the federal deficit in a decade without raising taxes. Instead, it requires sharp cuts to domestic programs and includes changes to Medicare. It would also require the repeal of the president's health care law, which is 3 years old today.
This plan recognizes that if we cannot handle our out-of-control debt, we will lose control of our future.
It's based on this false idea that you can claim to balance the budget in 10 years when you claim also to be getting rid of Obamacare, when all they do is get rid of the benefits of Obamacare.
The budget plan is not expected to see the light of day in the Senate, where Democrats are debating their own budget plans, split equally between raising taxes and spending cuts. The Supreme Court takes up the issue of same-sex marriage next week with 2 cases. And earlier this week, a panel made the case the court's decisions could radically change the culture in America. As Paul Strand tells us, they might have a bigger impact than the Roe v. Wade decision legalizing abortion.
The Supreme Court takes up 2 crucial questions March 26 and 27. Should California voters be allowed to keep gay marriage illegal? And should the federal government be allowed to define marriage as only between a man and a woman? If the court says no, that could make gay marriage the law of the land. Panelists at this Heritage Foundation event say that would affect far more than gay people. It would ignore fundamental truth.
And redefining marriage to exclude the truth about marriage would teach that marriage is not about uniting a man and a woman. It's not about the fact that biology requires a man and woman to create a child, or the social reality that a child needs a mom and a dad. So redefining marriage obscures those truths and makes marriage about the emotions of adults rather than the needs of children.
Constitutional scholar John Eastman says homosexuals argue they're no different than heterosexuals, so deserve equal protection under the law, thus the same right to marriage. But Eastman points out the Supreme Court has always recognized the government protects traditional marriage because it's crucial to civilization's continuing existence.
It's essential to the survival of society because that's the institution that by far best produces and raises the children that are the offspring of those relationships. You sever that, you destroy why it was a fundamental goal in the first place.
Austin Nimitz is on the legal team defending traditional marriage before the High Court.
Marriage is what it has always been from the beginning of time, the union of a man and a woman. That's how the Supreme Court has acknowledged marriage 14 times in its prior jurisprudence.
Nimitz says what's at stake here is whether the American people themselves get to have the final say about what marriage is.
Whether the Supreme Court is going to impose a radical new definition of marriage on all 50 states and the 4 U.S. territories. Americans want to engage in this debate. We've been doing it for the last 10 years. Americans care about this, and what we need is the Supreme Court to keep its hands off of marriage right now. Let Americans continue to debate this through our democratic institutions.
The Heritage Foundation's Anderson points out in a nation that's legalized same-sex marriage, people who argue it's wrong will face discrimination and even punishment. For instance,
we've already seen in the states that have adopted same-sex marriage that they've shut down Christian adoption agencies. In Massachusetts, Illinois, and Washington, D.C., Catholics were running adoption agencies. They thought kids needed a mom and a dad, and then the state said, we're not giving you license to run your adoption agencies unless you place children with same-sex couples on an equal footing as with traditional moms and dads.
So the most important cases about marriage to ever come before the Supreme Court aren't really just about marriage. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from the National Press Club.
Coming up, targeting senior citizens, how social media is bringing new life to an old con.
The game show of biblical proportions is back with more action, more fun, more stars, Kirk Franklin, Mary, and more nuns.
The nuns just whooped you, man.
The American Bible Challenge Season 2 premieres tonight, 9/8 Central, only on GSN. Visit gsntv.com to find GSN in your area.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
The game show of biblical proportions is back with more action, more fun, more stars, Kirk Franklin, Mary, and more nuns.
The nuns just whooped you, man.
The American Bible Challenge Season 2 premieres tonight, 9/8 Central, only on GSN. Visit gsntv.com to find GSN in your area.
Several states are warning investors about a company called Profitable Sunrise. It promises risk-free returns of up to 2.7% a day on their money. ChristianMoney.com editor-in-chief James Paris says the company targets Christians by using gimmicks like images of Jesus and Bible verses.
What many of these schemes do is they actually pay the current investors by bringing in new investors. I know this is a cliche, but if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And when you're looking at, bank CDs paying 1%, and someone's telling you that you can earn 2% in just one single day, and this person doesn't even have a physical office location, is not providing you with a prospectus, is not a licensed investment advisor or securities dealer, these are all very obvious tip-offs.
Paris and a nonprofit fraud investigation group say even pastors have fallen prey. Profitable Sunrise has allegedly collected more than $100 million from investors. For more on this important story, go to our website at cbnnews.com. Social media like Facebook and Twitter are giving new life to an old con game targeting senior citizens. In some cases, the crooks end up with the seniors' entire savings. From Graham has more on the scheme known as the grandparent scam.
Family means everything to Leon and Nina Merrick. As young children, the Holocaust survivors lost everyone and everything.
My daughter and my grandchildren is the only relatives we have.
I am the only survivor of my family, so my grandson means a lot to me.
And he was on Nina's mind when she answered her phone.
He said, "Hi, Grandma, how you doing?" And I said, "Who am I talking to?" And he said, "Your grandson, Joshua." And I said, "Joshua never calls me grandma, he calls me Savta."
Joshua lives in Israel, but the caller told Nina he'd been in Greece attending a friend's wedding.
Then he said, "Well, I am in big trouble, and promise you're not going to tell my parents."
So the story goes and grows. The caller was supposedly in jail because he wrecked a rental car.
I am in big trouble. They would not let me go, get out of the country until I pay the damages. I said, "So how much are the damages?" He said, $3,500.
Nina then gave the phone to her husband, who pressed the caller for a number to call him back.
He said, "No, I cannot give you the number. I'm going to pay you back every penny. Don't worry, don't worry. If you're not going to give me the money, then they're not going to let me leave the country." I said, "Josh, it just doesn't sound like you. You have to give me the telephone number, okay? Let me think, and maybe I have to talk to somebody." And he didn't want to give me the telephone number. And at that point, we got disengaged. That's it. No money.
Leon then called his grandson, who was safe in Israel.
To be able to exploit seniors and their love for their grandchildren is about as low as it comes.
Eric Friedman heads the Montgomery County Consumer Protection Agency. He told me the Merrick's phone call followed the four-step dance to the grandparent scam. Establish credibility, emergency, and secrecy. Then exploit grandparents' natural desire to help their grandchildren.
We have heard from seniors who've wired several $1,000s, $3,000, $3,800 to these crooks.
The age of social media is also making it easier for crooks to get information on a possible target, like here on Facebook, where millions come to post personal pictures and information to share with family. In the hands of a crook, that information can be useful to con a grandparent who isn't likely to have a Facebook page.
I don't know where did they get this information? I mean, that I have a grandson whose name is Joshua.
This is the most despicable type of consumer fraud we can see in this office. And it's just one drop short of violent crime.
Grandparents aren't the only ones who need to be careful. Friedman encourages all consumers never rush to wire money anywhere unless you know for sure who will get it.
Typically, wiring money is no different than handing cash to someone. Once they run away, the money is gone.
And the Merrick share their own advice after almost becoming a victim.
He had answers for everything, everything. But it is important for people to ask questions, personal questions, to make sure that this is their loved ones.
Ephraim Graham, CBN News, Montgomery County, Maryland.
Up next, the American Bible Challenge. Host Jeff Foxworthy tells us what to expect in Season 2.
The game show of biblical proportions is back with more action, more fun, more stars, Kirk Franklin, Mary, and more nuns.
The nuns just whooped you, man.
The American American Bible Challenge Season 2 premieres tonight, 9/8 Central, only on GSN. Visit GSNTV.com to find GSN in your area.
When you're driving along and your cell phone rings, do your eyes instantly go off the road? Then you need to get a grip. Hi, David Jones here with the new GripGo, the most versatile hands-free mount that will instantly grip any phone for safe driving. Just attach the suction cup to your windshield or dash, and GripGo grabs your phone ultra fast. Then it peels right off. And don't worry, there's no sticky residue left behind. The 360-degree pivoting mount allows you to always get the perfect viewing angle. It's even strong enough to grab and hold this expensive smartphone out the window. Yet it comes right off with ease. That's the advantage of GripGo. You can get the amazing GripGo with dashboard mount for only $14.95. We'll send you a second kit free. Just pay separate processing and handling. Get 2 complete GripGo systems for just $14.95.
To order GripGo for $14.95 plus processing and handling, call 1-800-709-5259 or order online at getgripgo.com.
The game show of biblical proportions is back. With more action, more fun, more stars, Kirk Franklin, Mary, and more nuns.
The nuns just whooped you, man.
The American Bible Challenge Season 2 premieres tonight, 9/8 Central, only on GSN. Visit GSNTV.com to find GSN in your area.
Welcome back. If you think you know a lot about the Bible, you could be the perfect contestant on the game show, The American Bible Challenge. Our Ephraim Graham recently talked with the show's host, Jeff Foxworthy. Take a look.
Last year, the Game Show Network scored huge success with the American Bible Challenge. Tonight at 9, Season 2 begins with a couple of new twists. Joining us now to tell us more about that is the host, Jeff Foxworthy. Well, you had quite success last year. What can you tell us about what's planned this year?
It's really a fun season because we wanted to take it out of the box what people thought a Christian looked like. So this season we have nuns, we have cowboys, we have tattoo artists, have street rappers from all over the country, and they all do well on this. And I think part of the success of the first season was not only did we have fun, but unlike any game show, everybody gave the money away. They turn around and loved on somebody in their community. And you know, faith that's just talked about gets boring pretty quickly, but when you can see people doing something with it, where you're watching going, well, I'd like to be a part of that, then it becomes interesting and fun.
Well, I know the show's been quite a success, as you said. Did you anticipate it doing as well as it did?
No, I mean, you always hope when you're doing something new, and this was kind of out of the box. I mean, you know, I personally believe God breathed His attributes into us, and joy is one of them, and so we're respectful. But I mean, this year we even added, like, you've got to put the books of the Bible in the right order, or you've got to suck the right answer on a straw and put it on there, and I mean, just to kind of make it fun. It should be a fun thing.
Indeed. Now, I know you travel the country as a stand-up comedian. What are people telling you about what they like about the show?
You know what? I think they like the fact that, you see it being lived out. You know, if you read the Bible, the only people Jesus got sideways with were the Pharisees, who had the head knowledge but no heart knowledge. And, you know, these people on our show, they're out there doing this in their communities anyway. We're just giving them a way to take some money back there. And that we're not ashamed of this is what it is. I mean, it seems like almost in this country you have to apologize for having faith. And I don't think that's something you should be ashamed of. We had 3 ladies from Plano, Texas, that ran a food pantry because they were in a low-income community, and they won $20,000 on the show. Well, we went to commercial, and I looked over at her. We were just talking, and I said, "What does $20,000 mean to you?" And her eyes just welled up with tears. She said, "That's 80,000 meals for people in my neighborhood, people that wouldn't be getting enough to eat." And then you're thinking, okay, this isn't just a game show. This is cool. This is actually changing somebody's life.
Beautiful. I understand that you're also embarking on a new comedy tour soon. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, you know, tour implies that it stops and starts. Out of everything, if you put a gun to my head and said you could only do one thing, it would probably always be stand-up. And so, yeah, I continue to do that and continue to, write. As my mother says, you don't have to tell everything that goes on in this family. But Well, I sure love doing it, so I'm still doing that. I just started filming a show for CBS that'll be on this summer. It's a competition for amateur bakers, you know, from all different walks of life. And so life is good right now. A lot of good things going on.
All right, you are indeed staying busy. Jeff Foxworthy, host of the American Bible Challenge, in its second season now, begins tonight at 9 on the Game Show Network. Thank you so much for joining us.
GSN, thank you so much. You bet.
Up next, something stinks in Montpelier, the contest that has the judges turning up their noses.
The game show of biblical proportions is back with more action, more fun, more stars, Kirk Franklin, Mary, and more nuns.
The nuns just whooped you, man.
The American Bible Challenge Season 2 premieres tonight, 9/8 Central, only on GSN. Visit GSNTV.com to find GSN in your area.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
The game show of biblical proportions is back with more action, more fun, more stars, Kirk Franklin, Mary, and more nuns.
The nuns just whooped you, man.
The American Bible Challenge Season 2 premieres tonight, 9/8 Central, only on GSN. Visit GSNTV.com to find GSN in your area.
It was a contest that left the judges holding their noses in Vermont. Kids of all ages lined up to compete in the 38th annual Rotten Sneaker Contest. 8 finalists were chosen, some traveling all the way from Alaska to win the title. Judges ranked the shoes based on odor and how they got that way. The winner was a 14-year-old from Bristol, Connecticut.
Oh my God.
And I got my sneakers brought in by working in my chicken coop and taking my dogs for walks at the dog park.
Clean the chicken coop out. That was, a classic move to really make them stink up, because chicken manure is, in my opinion, one of the worst smells ever.
There she is.
Oh, that's bad. Woof. Well, a check for $2,500 and a free trip to New York City was given to the winner. And it takes a special person to be a judge of that contest. Well, that's all for this edition of NewsWatch. Thanks again for watching. Have a great night.